Okay, well, I think we'll begin now then. So thank you to everyone who's joined us so far. Good morning. And on behalf of the Spanish Chamber of Commerce in the UK, we'd like to give you a very warm welcome to today's Brexit Beyond technical webinar, which is the 8th one that we've carried out so far on this topic, in the series, which is on the topic of the UK Global Tariff. For this session, we're delighted to be joined by Faisal Hamza, who is a policy advisor at the Department for International Trade of the British government. I'm just going to now hand over to Eduardo Barachina, who is the president of our chamber, to give some opening remarks.
Good morning, Hannah. Thanks very much, and good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining this seminar on Brexit and Beyond, and the chamber organizes in cooperation with different departments of the British government. And we're delighted to have today our favorite department, the DIT, with whom we worked extremely closely, both at political and technical level. Not least, we had Lord Grimston last year presenting the barometer and also giving breakfast talk also in October. So I'm pleased to welcome Faisal Hamza, policy advisor at the DIT. We do know that the Cooperation and Trade Agreement provides for zero tariff arrangements, but exporters will have to meet with some requirements and comply with, particularly with rules of origin provisions and conditions to reach zero tariff. So I think it's still very important to understand what happens if they don't. What are the options, and how we understand fully the British or the UK Global Tariff regime in case goods that come into the British market are subject to the tariff. Also, since the European Common External Tariff is no longer applicable, I think many exporters will welcome Faisal's thoughts and explanations on the most favored nation provisions. So I think it's extremely interesting, and the timing is obviously very good for many Spanish exporters. And I thank again, Faisal, thank you very much, and muchas gracias for spending your time with us today. And we do hope to see you at some point physically, or maybe over a glass of wine, to say thank you. Without further ado, I hand over now to Faisal. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me to do this talk. It's a pleasure to be here, albeit still in my own house. But yes, hopefully a meeting in person would be great. But I'll just share my screen now. I'm just going to be doing a presentation. All right, so we'll start off. Yes, the UK Global Tariff. So just to kind of, I'm sure most of you know all of this already, but just to start with the basics. So tariff, what is a tariff? Tariffs are taxes applied to imports when they enter any country, imposed by the government of that country. So trading partners can agree to zero or lower preferential tariff rates for their goods through a free trade agreement. But when trade from partners that don't have agreements in place takes place, the default is for the MFN schedule of a country's tariff system to be applied to this good. So what does MFN stand for? It stands for Most Favored Nation. And essentially it's a principle that means that unless a trading agreement is in place, the same tariffs must be applied to all trading partners, which is sometimes referred to as WTO terms. So yeah, I kind of find it a kind of counterintuitive term, because most favored nation implies that you're being favored, but by its very nature, you are not being favored, because you are receiving the kind of same treatment that all other countries that don't have a trade deal with that country will be receiving. So yes, the same tariff will apply to all third countries without that do not have a trade deal, and this is all stipulated in the tariff reference document of the country in question. But yes, so in essence, as Eduardo alluded to earlier, the UK GT is the UK's new MFN tariff, and it has applied from 1st of January 2021, and it does replace the EU's common external tariff. So the UK GT is different to the common external tariff. As Eduardo also alluded to earlier, as we all know, the UK-EU TCA does allow for 100% free trade between all EU member states and the UK, assuming requirements are met, such as rules of origin, etc. But if those rules aren't met, then goods will receive the tariff rate that is stipulated under the UK Global Tariff, as opposed to the 0% rate. So yeah, who pays the tariff? The importers pay the tariff, and these tariffs are typically passed down to the consumers through higher prices. So just briefly on commodity codes. So goods are split up. They are kind of categorized via what's called a commodity code, and these commodity codes are very important, so that you can identify what kind of header your product comes under, and therefore what tariff will be applied to your good. It'll also determine what declarations you'll need, if there's any VAT you'll have to pay, or if there's any reliefs that you might have available to you for the duty of that product. The best way to search for what will be relevant for you as an exporter to the UK would be to check the UK's trade tariff tool. So there's a link here, which I'll hopefully be able to share in the side chat after the presentation. But in essence, if you just search UK trade tariff tool on Google, it'll come up straight away. But this is really helpful, this tool, in kind of helping you to find out what commodity code your product is, and what kind of rules there are for you to export to the UK under this commodity code. So just to kind of go over quick, the kind of key and headline messages of the UK Global Tariff. So the UK Global Tariff is, in essence, replacing the common external tariff, and it has and in doing that, changes have been made to it, so that it's not replicating the common external tariff. It's more tailored to the UK economy, so it is easier to use, backs British businesses, and reduces cost pressures for customers. The UK GT, when combined with all other trade measures, including FTAs, means that around 91% of the value of goods imported into the UK annually will be able to enter tariff-free from now on. It's a simpler, easier to use, and a lower tariff regime than the CET, and it's in pounds, not euros. For the first time in 50 years, as I mentioned, the UK has shaped its own tariff policy. It scraps red tape and other unnecessary barriers to trade, reduces cost pressures, and increases choice for consumers, and backs UK industries to compete on the global stage. So we'll be going into a bit more detail on these kind of things later on. And just to say, just to note as well, that the UK GT was designed following engagement with individuals and businesses across the UK, including a public consultation, which received more than 1,300 responses. So the approach to developing the UK GT, as mentioned, a public consultation was conducted on this. It was ran for 4 weeks last year between February and March, which asked for kind of feedback on proposals that the government had for the UK GT, and kind of, just feedback on general direction of the UK GT as well. And alongside this, a series of stakeholder engagement events and discussions were held with various businesses and groups and experts to help inform the consultation. And yes, the government also held cross-Whitehall policy workshops internally, which led to them conducting internal modelling and analysis, which helped to inform UKGT policy. Alongside all this, in taking its decision, the government also had regard to 5 principles set out in the Taxation Cross-Border Trade Act of 2018. So these are just briefly the interests of consumers in the UK, the interests of producers in the UK of the goods concerned, the desire to maintain and promote external trade in the UK, the desire to maintain and promote productivity in the UK, and the extent to which goods concerned are subject to competition. And alongside this, the government's also balanced strategic trade objectives such as the delivery of the UK's trade ambitions and FTA trade agenda, as well as the maintenance of the government's commitment to developing countries to reduce poverty through trade. So these were all kind of the principles that the government used to when shaping the UKGT. So what has changed since the Common External Tariff? The kind of 3 main things are simplification of tariffs, liberalization of tariffs, and also the retaining of certain key and sensitive tariffs on goods. We'll go into detail on all of these now. So yes, starting with simplification. First key thing that was done was to remove all nuisance tariffs on goods. So this, in essence, all tariffs under 2% were removed. These goods included fridges, pistachio cement, that kind of thing. And in essence, the reason for this was because at that point, it kind of is, because the tariff is so low, it kind of becomes more of just a hindrance for trade rather than something that, something that's beneficial for the country. So this was part of us kind of removing red tape and this kind of thing. So we removed nuisance tariffs. We standardized banding of the tariffs. So in essence, tariffs were, in all cases, tariffs have been rounded down. So whenever there was a tariff, which for example was 16.1%, this was rounded down to 16%. And it all depended on how high the tariff rate was. So for tariffs under 20%, these have been rounded down to the nearest 2%. For any tariffs under 50%, but above 20%, these were rounded down to the nearest 5%. And then tariffs above 50% were all rounded down to the nearest 10%. So yeah, if there was something that was like 75% tariff rates, that would then go down to 70%. There were also steps towards simplifying some complex agricultural tariffs. So in essence, this included removing or reducing seasonal variability of tariffs on some products, such as, this usually includes like fresh produce, which will have a certain tariff on one half of the year and then a different tariff on another half of the year. Removing or simplifying measures that calculate duty based on market prices or ingredient components. So as I'm sure a lot of you will be aware, the EU currently utilizes something called the Mersing table, which is a special tariff measure that applies to kind of processed products containing milk, fat, and milk proteins. And in essence, the tariff rates that a good that contains these products will attract depends. It varies depending on the percentages of each of the 4 components. This can be very difficult and burdensome to exporters. So the UK has removed this as well. So now for liberalization of tariffs. So the UKGT also liberalizes tariffs on key inputs for production to reduce input cost pressures and support UK manufacturing for a lot of key industries which the UK has. So this includes goods such as machinery, wood, bicycle parts, lowering the input costs of these through reducing the tariff helps British businesses to manufacture these goods with lower cost, and then improves their competitiveness. On goods where the UK has zero limited production as well, tariffs have been liberalized. This includes goods such as cotton, refrigerators, freezers, and pianos. This should hopefully reduce cost pressures for British customers on goods not produced in the UK, improving choice of variety as well. And thirdly, the UK also liberalized tariffs on certain goods which help to support green growth industries and help to kind of support the UK in meeting its net zero obligations. So these are some of the key kind of considerations the UK had when choosing what tariffs to liberalize. And then for tariffs that have been retained, the majority of these are on agricultural products. This with the aim of avoiding disruption for UK farmers. And as we all know, kind of the agriculture industry can be quite sensitive to competition. So yes, tariffs have been retained on these kind of products, especially meat. And tariffs have also been retained in sectors to back iconic exporters and UK producers, such as car industry, businesses, and ceramic goods. Tariffs have also been retained on goods such as vanilla, plantains, and bed linen. And these kind of things were, these kind of goods have their tariffs retained in order to maintain the preferential access of developing countries to the UK market. So in essence, if we had liberalized these products, it would kind of undermine the preferential access that developing countries currently benefit from with the UK. As mentioned before, the currency has now been converted from euros to pounds. The exchange rates that we used to determine this was based on the average rate of the last 5 years prior to the end of the transition period, and which the exchange rates being €1 to 0.837 pounds. And this was then also rounded down for certain tariffs that aren't kind of presented as percentages, but ones that are done by like the weight, for example. So yes, with 109.1 euros per 100 kilos of whatever you're importing, the UK would then round that down would convert it and then round it down as well to the nearest pound. So as a result of all these changes and the UK GT now being implemented, the UK GT almost doubles the number of products that are tariff-free relative to what was applied in the common external tariff, with just under 50% of products now 0% compared to 26% in, with just under 50% of products now 0 compared to 26% in the EU CET. The UK GT, when combined with all other trade measures, including FTAs, means that around 91% of the value of goods imported in the UK annually will be able to enter tariff-free, as I mentioned earlier. £30 billion worth of imports for supply chains are now tariff-free, backing UK businesses. £10 billion worth of imports that have little to no UK production are now tariff-free, which lowers the cost pressures for UK customers. And where tariffs have been kept, the UK GT reduces and simplifies tariffs, which helps to increase market access and improve transparency for traders. So that's my kind of summary of the UK Global Tariff. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. I'll stop sharing for now. But yes.
Cool. Thank you very much, Faisal. Thanks for that presentation. It's really, really useful, I'm sure, for everyone who joined us. So, yeah, if you have any questions for Faisal, you can write them in the chat, or which you'll see at the bottom of your screen there, and also there's the Q&A function as you prefer. Okay, so a question we've had to start us off, Faisal, is how much trade is affected by the UK Global Tariff generally, and the changes brought about by the implementation of this?
Hi. Sorry, would you mind repeating the question?
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so how much trade is affected by the UK Global Tariff and the changes brought about by the implementation of this?
So in essence, I believe, so the UK GT, when combined with all other trade measures, which includes free trade arrangements, means that approximately, I think it's £445 billion worth of imported goods based on 2017-2019 average trade flows will be able to enter the UK tariff-free per annum. This amounts, which as I mentioned before, this amounts to around 91% of the value of all goods being imported into the UK.
Cool, great, thanks. Okay, just got another couple of questions so far, but if there's still time, if anyone else would like to write some in, either via the chat or the Q&A, as I mentioned there. Someone has asked, so how can I find out which countries have most favoured nation status?
So this will all depend on if, firstly, it depends on if that country has a free trade agreement with the UK. Even if they do, that doesn't necessarily cover all goods. So I'm sure that some goods that they're exporting to the UK will still attract the MFN rate. So the best way I would recommend to check what good you are importing to the UK, that to check if it does benefit from preferential access or if the MFN rate is applied, is to go to the trade tariff tool I mentioned earlier, which I will now post into the sidebar, which hopefully you'll be able to see. Honestly, that tool is invaluable in kind of trying to find out what tariff will apply to your product. So yes, I'll definitely recommend that.
Great, cheers, thank you. Yeah, please do look in the chat, everyone, if you haven't already, for that resource. That's really useful. Okay, finally, someone has just asked, what do you think are the main kind of pros and cons of a country having MFN status? This is more of a general question, but just out of interest.
That's fine. So, I mean, I imagine most countries would probably prefer to have a trade deal in place. Although obviously, conducting a trade deal, you have to cede some ground in order to gain some, in order to gain a kind of favorable access to a different country. So yeah, I would imagine most countries would probably prefer having an FTA. But in terms of MFN, I guess, I mean, the main cons are that you will have to is that the country you are exporting to will have to pay these kind of higher rates, or you would imagine they would be higher under MFN tariff schedule. So which obviously increases costs for the importer, and which will, therefore maybe would decrease the amount they're able to purchase from your country. So yes, so obviously that's the kind of the main downside is having increased costs. And in terms of pros, I mean, I'm not in terms of trade, probably not much, because you'd want to have a free trade. You don't have as much free trade as possible. But I guess the pro is that you aren't having to, as a nation, you aren't having to then kind of maybe concede that access to that country. So you are still kind of protected in that regard.
Cool. Makes sense. Thank you very much, Faisal, for that. And yeah, that's all the questions we've had. But if anyone has any after this that you suddenly think of, please write them to me. You probably already have my email address. If not, I'll share that around after this session. So if you have any other questions for Faisal, please write them to me. and I'll relay those to him and then send the answers back to you. So please do get in touch if you have any other questions. But thank you so much for your presentation, Faisal. We really appreciate your time to share your insight with us. Yeah, it's been really informative, and we've got another of these sessions with the Base Department on the 26th of May, so everyone keep an eye out for the details about that. And yeah, thank you very much, Faisal.
No worries, and thank you all for having me.
Right, cheers, all the best. Have a great day, everyone.